Hello and welcome. Thank you all for being here today on this December 30th, 2021. I am Nick Kanoki, the Director of Technology for the Asset Leadership Network. I'm excited for our open discussion format, ALN Thursday at 3 today. Before we get underway, just want to thank our patron members, Definitive Logic, Onuma System, ABS Quality Evaluations, and ABS Group, as well as our growing list of organizational members. As you can see here, they now spill onto 3 separate slides. And with that, I will just say, if you're out there watching, this is a more open discussion than most of our ALN Thursdays at 3, so we'll probably be sending you a message shortly here in the chat to see if you want to participate either in audio or video and audio. Jim Dieter, why don't you get us started and just let me know if and when you think it's a good time to reach out to, looks like Art Curlin, Jack Kelly, and Diane Gettings are on right now.
Sounds great. Well, just let me get started, and then maybe we'll just promote everybody that's here so far. We wanted to, the thought was today, or at least my thought, and Mike isn't here. I think he's on a phone call, so hopefully Mike will be joining us. But, to talk about the future, what's next year and beyond, from a personal perspective, from a asset management perspective, more broadly, very broadly. And then, maybe finally, or we'll see where we go, what that means for the ALN. What can we be doing? And what are we going to be doing? And what can we be doing? So let me start. Then I'll give Nick a chance on the personal part. Then we'll think about promoting some people if they're up for it. Let Nick know if you don't want to be promoted. How's that? In the chat, I guess would be good. So I'm really looking forward to next year. I think it seems like we're not going to quickly emerge from COVID times. Sounds like it'll be different, but we're still likely to be spending a lot of time working from home, which works great for me because that's what I was doing before COVID started. So that part's been easy for me. So I'm doing some consulting, which is good. And I actually have a job offer to take like a half or part-time job, so that it, not so much that it'll interfere with my ALN activities, but really looking forward to that possibility, and see what 2022 will bring us. I should say, on a very personal level, I'm at heart a math guy, and my birthday date is all even numbers. I was born on the 28th of a month, and my lucky number overall is 222. So I'm really good things tend to happen, or things happen more easily in my life, I've found, on even number years. Like I had, 2 kids born on odd number years. That was awesome. It couldn't hardly be better than that. But it wasn't particularly easy. Yeah. But even number years seem to be easy. And I'm particularly looking forward to, I think it's, my day of the century, which is February 22nd, 2022. So 2/22/2022. So that's my personal story. How about you, Nick?
Great, thanks for starting us off, Jim. Yeah, so I am excited for 2022 like you. I haven't found so much about even years, just life being so much easier, but maybe I haven't been looking closely enough. I'm very excited, just, like you were saying, it doesn't look like we're going to be out of the COVID pandemic or post-pandemic world anytime soon. But, figuring out how to make the new norm something that we're happy with, and carry on doing the things that are vital to our enjoyment and appreciation of life. One of those things is my partner's work situation. She's a travel nurse, so she tends to take a few different contracts in a year, and we are hoping she only has to take one this next year, because we have a 3-month-old little girl right now, and we'd love to spend as much time as we can just with her. And the price seems to be right these days for travel nurses. Nurses are heavily in demand, so it's possible that she will only have to work for a few months, and we'll figure out how to make that work. A lot of daddy daycare, it looks like, is coming my way. Hopes and prayers that all goes well and she stays safe at work, and doesn't bring anything home to us. But that's why they wear the PPE and take the precautions they do. And I'm proud to say that my partner is working in the healthcare industry and hands-on, doing the stuff frontline that needs to be done, and caring for people in a really human manner. So proud to support her in that, and I'm excited. I'm looking forward, a little anxious, but very excited to be taking care of my daughter 12 or 13 hours in a row on those days when she's working, hopefully with the support of friends and family. But yeah, that's pretty much the main pieces for me in 2022 personally. Continuing my work here, finding that balance between that and supporting my partner and my daughter.
That's awesome. Well, why don't we promote these folks, and they can continue the conversation.
Okay. Do you want to open with the next question, or should I, while I kind of promote people, or?
Well, no, let's hear what people's personal thoughts are, if they're willing to share. I mean, obviously nobody has to answer anything.
Okay.
So you folks could turn on your cameras and turn on your microphones, at least when you're speaking. There's Jack. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm
Good to
good.
see you. Happy New Year to you and to everybody.
Well, and the same right back at you.
That's excellent. Oh, Lisa's joining us too. So Jack, what does 2022 look like to you?
Well, so let me. What I'm
Go
hoping,
anywhere you want. That's fine.
what I'm hoping that we'll be able to do in 2022 is continue kind of the progress that I think we've had this year, but also, I mean, I think what we started with the NALs several years ago is really the foundation for what, at least in my thoughts about it, is potentially the foundation for what we should continue to be doing in the future, and just fleshing it out in ways that make it more impactful. And I say this because I have come to appreciate what we have done so far with the NALs a whole lot more in the work that I'm doing on Working Group 7. And by the way, I thank you, Jim, for helping me get involved in these ISO working groups, because I'm finding those just extremely interesting and extremely educational, because you get all these really smart people from around the world, and you all these different perspectives on their perspectives on asset management, and also as one of the founding thought leaders behind Working Group 7 and this international, ISO 55011. You'll appreciate, I think, that in fact, all the work that you've done to create standards in the ISO world has put you in that arena of these really smart people. A lot of times they have differences, as you know from Working Group 4, strong differences of opinion, but it's just it's an exhilarating environment to work in. But what I'm saying about Working Group 7 is, because Working Group 7 is essentially working on the same problem that we worked on in coming up with the NALs. How can you develop a national strategy that essentially expands the adoption of asset management throughout the organizations in your country. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with 55,011. And so the concepts that we're developing and doing that have a very clear role for organizations like the ALN, and a very clear role for how organizations like the ALN can engage more effectively in the policymaking process in their respective countries. And also, but it's the first time I've ever actually tried to look at all the pieces together. And if you think about ISO 55001, when you talk about the concept of the context of an organization, essentially when you're talking about 55,011, you're moving the idea of the context of an organization up to the context of all organizations in a country. And that's what we call the enabling environment in that thing. So it has been an amazing ride. I'm really looking forward to I'm hoping our little working group can produce something that will be valuable, and the role that it lays out for groups like the ALN, I think will paint a good path forward for us. So that's all I have to say right now.
That's good. Not very personal, but very good.
Well, so on a personal front, I just my wife and I had a wonderful time in Woodstock, New York, with our family. We just found out today that our granddaughter, who was with us the whole time, tested positive for COVID. I was able to get tested today for COVID over at Montgomery College, which is just a couple of miles from where I live, because I had been in the presence of somebody. And I also, 3 days ago, I came down with what has all the characteristics of my normal winter cold. So I've had, I haven't had, the first night was horrible. I couldn't sleep the whole first night, and I went and got tested up in New York. It took me about a whole day to get through their testing thing. And they don't tell you. In fact, the way it works in New York, at least in Ulster County, is you go get a test, and then they say it will take 6 days to get results back. But unless you're test positive, they don't call you. So if you're clean, you have to worry forever, which is like crazy. So I'm expecting a much quicker response for the test down here. But basically I'm feeling fine now, and glad to be home, glad to be back at my computer where I can actually do real work. That's it.
Thanks, Jay. Art, how about you? Oh my God, you're the squirrel again. Lisa, would you like to turn on your camera and or just talk and join us? Hi, how you doing?
Hi there. It's been a while.
It has. I miss it. Miss seeing you.
Yeah. So I chatted with Mike Bordenaro earlier this week, maybe day before yesterday, and we had talked a little bit in the fall. We had reconnected in the fall around an organization or a sub-organization that I am now leading that I think has some intersecting interests with Asset Leadership Network, and really interested in exploring those intersections and how we might work together. So I've long been involved with the Society of American Military Engineers, which is kind of a DoD-centric organization. It really runs the gamut from, civil engineering to overseas contingency operations, to more, CONUS asset management, and covers, MILCON as well as SRM type of activities. Within SAME, there, as it's called, there are both local posts, which tend to be localized near DoD installations. And then there are these emergent communities of interest. SAME has long had these communities of interest, but strategically they are really trying to transform the COIs, especially in the pandemic, into this sort of topical sub-communities without geographic boundaries. So traditionally, the entry point for SAME was your local post. Now they're really trying to encourage these communities of interest. And I am leading a facility asset management community of interest within SAME. It's one of the larger communities of interest within the organization. I think we've got 650 members, not all of them really actively engaged in the group, but a good and healthy membership. And so I kind of got thrust into this role. Frankly, the chair of the COI, the community of interest, had to resign in the wake of COVID, had some job disruptions, and they tapped me for the chairmanship of this COI. And it's taken me a little while to kind of seg and get in and get some momentum going, but we do have some good momentum now. We have a steering committee of, I don't know, maybe a dozen folks, and maybe half of those are really intensely engaged in a regular meeting cadence. And SAME traditionally has a facility management workshop. SAME does about 5 conferences over the course of the year, but there is one that is really put on by the facility asset management community of interest, and that's the facility management workshop. It's kind of toggled back and forth between February and July. We are going to realign that. There's not going to be one in July of 2022, but there's going to be one probably in February of 2023. So the COIs are charged with really aligning with SAME's strategic plan, which has, probably, I think, 4 key pillars: developing the STEM pipeline for the nation, resiliency and preparedness is a key one. And I'm sorry, I've been trying to log into our collaboration board to pull this stuff out of my vacation brain. But and I have I can prepare a more formalized deck to share with you guys. But the main thing that we are undertaking now is we are actually going to do something of a wargaming or tabletop exercise at what is called JETC. That is another conference of SAME's, the Joint Engineering Training Conference, which is in May of each year. And so the group is very intently working on a kind of a scenario-based, problem-solving focused tabletop exercise, kind of in the image of a war gaming exercise for that event in May.
Well, that's a lot. Well, that sounds great. Yeah. Looking forward to that. I think one of our focuses for the ALN this year is to, to actually, have some, cooperative agreements with other associations in place so we can, cross promote and, whatever we agree, of course. But looking forward to working with you on that. Yeah. Art, how about you? Did you lose your squirrel voice or not?
Testing.
Oh, perfect. You're there.
Okay. I have a hidden talent there. I didn't know. I switched the USB ports. But yeah, I got a lot going on for next year. Actually, starting at the end of this year, I think everybody knows we're building a new hospital tower. The skeleton of it is already up. It's like 12 floors. They're starting to put the skin on it. It's supposed to be done in 2023. So that's keeping me busy. Plus, at this time of year, I got staff taking time off. And so I'm multitasking as we speak. Yeah, and so, but I think it's great. I love just to keep busy. You know, the days go by fast, and keep looking for opportunities. That's what we do. And so, yeah, we're already starting working to make sure that all the new devices for the new tower are going to get accounted for properly. We're our processes and procedures are being tested, and so far so good. And also working on some course material to spread the knowledge on how to manage 100,000 pieces of assets in a hospital environment. So that's coming along nicely too.
I muted myself. I seldom do that. Are they thinking about asset management from a facility standpoint, or just still from the personal property standpoint?
Well, they
Sounds
are,
like it.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
they are, but we have a new facilities director, relatively new, and he's still, getting his feet wet because he comes from a different environment, and it takes a little while to kind of get into how things are done in a publicly owned health system. And so I know they're making some progress. They had an outside vendor come in and do some inventorying of plant equipment, and I think they're getting a new CMMS database to start working with. But like a lot of things, even on the personal property side, things just kind of start slow, and then they just maintain that momentum of just the wheel turns slowly, but it grinds finally. So we'll get there. It's just a really slow process.
I've never worked in a hospital environment, but and I know you focus on the personal property aspects.
Yeah.
But Jesus, the built-in infrastructure in a hospital far exceeds a normal building. It's not just electricity and internet,
Yeah.
water.
It's like a little city is what I call it. I mean,
Yeah.
we have our own water supply, our own generators. We have our own police force, our own cafeteria, our own laundry. It's really just like a little city.
Yeah, neat, neat. Well, I hope they. I'm sitting here. I'm sure Lisa's thinking about how she could help you help you manage that facility. It
Yeah.
seems like such a great opportunity to, with a new start, such a huge facility. God.
Yeah, it is. It's a great opportunity. Like I said, uh, it's also compartmentalized. And so with our new facilities director just getting, his feet wet and all of that, we kind of need to give him some space. He already knows that the personal property is ISO certified. I think he's familiar with the ISO certification. We were working with the assistant director before, and going in kind of that direction. So I'm sure he's been briefed on what we were doing before he got here. So it's I think inevitable, and just gonna take some time before we pick up where we left off.
All right. Well, let's go. Okay, Jack, go ahead.
So it's exciting for me to listen to both Lisa and Art. And so one of the things that I didn't mention when I was talking about the potential, my hope for the path forward this year being built around, the NALs, is the other two things that are happening that I'm not sure everybody on this call knows about, is the ALN has been hired, well, sort of hired by the US TAG, the Technical Advisory Group, to TC 251, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with this terminology, the US TAG is what they call a mirror committee for the International Asset Management Committee, which is TC 251. And so we are the US representatives to ISO and representing the United States position on all these different asset management standards. And one of the things that we've been tasked by, the ALN has been tasked by the US TAG, is to set up a website that basically takes the notion of the known certified organizations list that TC 251 publishes on its website, which is a list of all certified, it's actually more than just certified organizations, but it presents itself as being a list of certified organizations. So for example, Arts Hospital University Health is one of those organizations on that certified organizations list. So we want to take that concept and broaden it to include more organizations that are on the path to adopting asset management. And we also want to use that website to provide opportunities for folks like Art to tell their stories, you know, and maybe in the form of some kind of a case study, lessons learned that can be picked up by other organizations in the healthcare industry, and maybe help incentivize them to, if not seek certification, at least appreciate the value that ISO 55000 can bring to their organizations and expand the adoption. And also our list will create an opportunity for those organizations to become more visible. And the idea is that by making it much more visible for the whole community of organizations in the US to see who's on the path to asset management in their sectors, for example, and then maybe connect with some compelling case studies about what the benefits have been for these various folks. If it works the way we're hoping it will work, it'll create kind of this buzz within the internet community of asset management folks that will help, you know, move things along. And so I think, and that's where they're two different in the way that we're framing this new standard. They're different participants in the enabling environment for asset management. There are government participants, the people that actually make the laws and write the regulations and issue the policies. Yes.
You know, we only have a couple minutes.
I'm going somewhere with this. So let me just finish, please.
Okay, go ahead. We only have a couple minutes left.
The non-government participants include the asset management advocacy groups like the ALN, but also professional associations like SAME that are advocating asset management. And so the idea is to be able to, so we're going to we're hoping on the ISO website to create another list that we're going to call asset management resources. And that list will be, here's who the mirror committee are. If there is a mirror committee, here's who they are. If they're not, then here's the standards body. And then who are the asset management advocacy groups in that country? And who are the professional associations that advocate asset management? Again, the idea is make it much easier for people in a given country to connect with the experts, the asset management experts in that country. And so we're going to be, now that I know Lisa's working on this, I'm going to include her on my little email chain to get some ideas on what might make sense and what might be helpful and what might be totally stupid.
That reminds me, I just recently joined the TC 251 working group 6.
Great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, Lisa, you told us about SAME, but you have a day job too, I think. And how does that look in the from an asset management perspective this year?
Oh, at Gordian, what is interesting, and I'm trying to remember, it's probably been a couple of years since I've been really deeply involved with Asset Leadership Network. In that time, Gordian was acquired by what I would call its final home. We were private equity fueled for a little while. And we are now within this kind of multinational conglomerate called Fordiff. Most people haven't heard of it because they're a brand kind of behind the scenes. But what's interesting that's happening in our world is that the parent company is allowing us to connect some dots between what Gordian has traditionally done. We've got the RS means cost data, we've got the job order contracting for small project execution, but now we have another arm that's really facility planning. So Gordian itself has leaned into the builder universe. There was a DoD-wide enterprise buy of a builder specific cost data set to support builder SMS. And now we're working with a kind of a facility condition assessment and facility planning tool called VFA. And then there's one in the UK called KyCloud, KYKLOUD. Interestingly, we actually had Gordian representatives at that UK-based I think IAM conference in the fall, really promoting the KyCloud facility condition assessment product. So we're starting to sort of expand our universe in that full building life cycle. We are also starting to do some stuff internationally. On the job order contracting side, we have an interesting engagement with it's the US Air Force, but it's at Royal Air Force bases in the UK, helping to support some job order contracting programs with UK based cost data. So we're expanding in different ways.
Interesting. And I'm sure you're busy and heavily involved in it. You know, it's been an efficient person like you has a lot of demand. What it was making me think about is Laverne Deckard, who has been a guest on our program here from TC 267 on the facilities management standard, management system standard 41,000 series. And we're working on a project to talk about, to put a paper or whatever, something together on the relationship of facilities management and asset management. And they particularly wanted to do it from a facility manager perspective. And I thought it was a great opportunity because I think, to me, if you're doing asset management, and I think Art's case is a perfect example, facilities management is a logical adjunct or, a spin-off or, a larger connection for it to fit into. Obviously, all of Art's assets are in those facilities somewhere, or, at least on the real property part of it. But I think from the facilities management perspective, it's really important too, because I think the facilities management standard, as I understand it, does quite different things than the asset management standard and would allow facilities managers to apply, the same basic approach, but to get the detailed asset information and planning and long-range planning and stakeholder involvement, that isn't at the forefront of the facilities management standard. So I see them both really reinforcing well, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to produce a product. I'm not sure. And if we can't, my thought is to have an ALN dialogue about that and perhaps produce some document in that direction. Again, that's my thoughts, but others might have thoughts too.
So why wouldn't the facilities work tie in with the work that the BICE is doing on their facilities renewal thing? I mean, they're making a connection to asset management, we think. And why wouldn't that have set some precedent for what this other ISO committee is doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure what everybody's thinking it is. They're real nice people, I think getting people on each side to understand the value of the other discipline, I think is really good. I always think about asset management as being very broad, but not particularly deep or thick, from an organizational perspective. But it's more about the breadth than the depth. Doesn't mean it's not important. And obviously, if you're running a, an asset-centric organization like a water system, there's, it's all depth, but in a more diverse organization, I think interacting with IT asset management, interacting with facilities management, interacting with procurement, interacting with logistics, interacting with whatever, the various functions in your organization is really a key aspect of it. In fact, we've had a debate with work group 4 for the revision of 55,000, that it's really about asset management as described in the standard. It's about managing asset management activities, not specifically directly managing assets, that the asset management activities manage the assets, and the asset management system is about managing the activities, of which and that could, to me, either go either way with facilities, that they could see it in the same way, where we might see it as facilities as a part of that, they might see asset management as a part of theirs. All right, I talked too long. Does that make any sense to you, Lisa? Or you have any interest in finding a little bandwidth to share some thoughts on that in the future?
Sure.
We could do some good things. All right, well, we've run over. Anybody have any final thoughts they'd like to share?
Just want to wish you all a happy new year.
Yeah,
A healthy one.
Well, my final thought is I'm having a whole lot of fun working on this stuff and getting to meet some really interesting people and tackle some really fascinating problems, which is fun for me. And I'm optimistic about the next year. I hope everybody has a wonderful year, stays healthy, feels good, enjoys their families and loved ones all around, and just happy new year to everybody.
Lisa, anything you'd like to add?
No, just a happy new year, and I'm delighted to be reconnecting with you fine folks and meeting some new folks and just getting reconnected with Asset Leadership Network. Just really interested in exploring how we can intersect with the community of interest and pick up some initiatives together.
Well, Lisa, I see a Q&A for you. Somebody, Louise says, did you say that FCA planning tool is called KIE Cloud or KYK?
KYK.
KYK.
LOUD, and it's related to, so there's the VFA is a long-standing system, and then I mean there's a bunch of mergers and acquisitions. All of this comes out of Accruent, if anybody's familiar with Accruent, and they also have a bunch of CMMSs. But what Fordiff did is they pulled KiCloud and VFA out from under Accruent and put it under Gordian because they felt like it was better aligned with us. So
cool.
It feels like a game of mergers and acquisition chess sometimes.
Nice. Well, today is, to me, is a mini version of why the ALN was started and why it's been successful, is bringing thought leaders from different perspectives together and from different organizations, and we all learn a little bit by sharing what we're doing, what we think is important, and what we think can be done. So I'll just add my happy new year to all, and share Jack's positive hopes for the new year's. I am certainly an optimist. And with that, I'll turn it over to our excellent, and thank you, Nick, our excellent Director of Technology, Nick Kanoki, to share his thoughts and or sign us off.
Yeah, I just echo what we heard. Happy holidays all, and just another shout out to our patron members as well as our growing list of organizational members. Without their support, we couldn't do programs like this and our weekly newsletter and the annual event, which looks like for the 2022 year is going to become a quarterly summit, but maybe we'll talk more about that next time.
Yep.
Thanks for
Sounds
your
good.
participation, everyone.